Everywhere you go, you're going to take your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your associations, your past, your memories, your identification with form, your identification as this body. You're going to take your slavery and try to find freedom.
It's like
it's closed, right?
It's closed. It's like set. It's like limited. It's like only what you know.
Been in a book somewhere, right? I would.
That's exactly right. Somebody would have told me.
Just the idea that hey, you can do that for yourself, you know, and it's not going to interfere with your job or your wife or your family. Hello, my name is Richard Miller, and welcome to Never Not Here. This show is our way to take a fresh new look at the world, and maybe to find out more about life than we have ever imagined. You know, in the course of our lifetime, we've all studied a lot, and we've investigated those things that have been of interest to us. Undoubtedly, in that context, we have discovered a lot. But still, life can sometimes seem limited, and even pointless, especially if we start counting how many times we've gone around and around in the same rut. So we want to find a key, if there is one, or at least get a hint to have the full experience of this vast and marvelous universe. To help us with this focus, we've created a tagline, and it's to cultivate a habit to investigate the obvious. We like that slogan because probably we're all pretty good at looking outwards. So if there's more to life, just maybe we're standing right on top of it. Then it's our basic assumptions that need to be checked out. Because if you truly believe that something is dead obvious, well, isn't that the last place you're ever going to look? We'll never even check it out. So to help us today with our investigations, we have our guest, who's made some fascinating breakthroughs into how simple and beautiful life already is. So please help us welcome Mr. John Sherman.
Hi, Richard.
Hey, hello. Maybe we should say that this show is being taped in June, because we don't know exactly when it's going to go on the air. And so then if we start talking about current events, people can place themselves. But we just had a weekend intensive in which you brought to us here in the Chicagoland area. And it was really wonderful.
It was. I am very pleased with it.
What was there, about 35 or 40 people there? And very intimate setting.
Yesterday there were 35 or 40, yeah.
Beautiful, warm room and intimate setting, and we just all felt like a family. And
well, we are all a family,
yes.
Aren't we?
Family of man.
Yeah.
So, I think we all found that your teaching is really rather simple.
Simple. That's the key. Simple. Reality is simple. The teaching is really complicated because reality is too simple to be spoken about. Reality is self-evident, ever-present, and obvious. It's you. It's this permanent certainty of existence that you are. And it is way too simple to say anything about. And it's for that reason that I rarely ever make any attempt to say anything about reality, because, well, reality's here, obvious, self-evident, ever-present, and too simple to say anything about. So what I most often talk about is how to rid ourselves of the false ideas rather than how to understand what's real. And that gets kind of complicated.
Well, the false ideas are all the complications that we build around life.
Well,
basically.
really, there's only one false idea that we need to concern ourselves with. Ideas are false, true, relative. You know, they come and go, and they describe things, and they describe relationships, and so forth. But there's one idea that seems to persist that is the heart of the problem. One idea. And that's the idea that I am this life. And that's the idea that has to go.
I am this life. Now, how would
life.
you say that in another way? That you mean like I am my circumstances, I am
my body, my mind, my thoughts, my emotions, my dreams, my history, my expectations, my desires, my aversions, what I see, what I hear, what I feel, what I touch, the whole universe, the whole world that is this mind-body manifestation.
Mechanism, sort of.
Yeah, with its past, both its actual past, if there is such a thing, and its remembered and concocted past, which is what we generally carry around with us, and its future, if there is one, and the expectations and the projections and the whole thing, everything I see. This is all my life.
That's a huge simplification, John, because usually we try to pick and choose between the ones we like and the ones we don't like, and you just say, all of that is your life, and all of that is the misidentification.
That's right. That's exactly right. And our picking and choosing is just a way that we waste time while we're moving toward the grave. Because we should realize by now, if we have any age on us whatsoever, it should be really clear to us by now that all our picking and choosing is to no avail. That I can certainly say, oh, I like that, whatever that may be, an emotional experience, an energetic experience, a person, an idea, a thought. I can say I like that. And my saying that I like that says nothing about the likelihood that it will stay. Because the fact is that everything that appears disappears, and we know that. Similarly, I can exercise myself over what I don't like that is present, and wish it would go away, and hate it, and despise it, and deny it, and repress it, and all of that. But in the end, it comes whether I like it or not, and it goes whether I want it to stay or not. So all of the business of picking and choosing, even picking and choosing the idea that I don't want to do picking and choosing.
Wow.
Is a waste of time.
It gets more subtle. There's various levels of
You see, what I see and what I offer to people is the possibility that the whole show you don't need to do anything about. That what I'm speaking of not doing anything about is the most radical suggestion that you can possibly imagine. I don't need to do anything about anything that comes and goes in this mind-body. In fact, when I try to do something about it, I discover I can't do anything about it anyway. And I don't need to do anything about trying to do something about it either. It's all beside the point if it's true that the only problem in all of humanity is a false belief about what we are. If it's true that that's the problem, then all the time I spend trying to fix this about which I falsely believe myself to be, is a waste of time and energy. So the possibility that I offer and that I speak about wherever I go is the possibility of the direct, immediate, conscious discovery of the reality of our nature. And the result of that is the gradual vanishing of the false belief that I am something other.
Let's go back a step or two, and because I think a lot of people might have some question marks going off in their head when you say, I don't have to do anything about some certain condition or some, and they're probably thinking, well, my God, if I don't do anything about it, nothing will happen. And so then probably there's a couple things we could say. One is that you don't have to stop doing anything about it either, which is comforting. Right. And the other is maybe that you might notice that things kind of happen. Okay, they kind of happen as you're thinking you're doing them. It's kind of like happening anyhow. I mean, it's not something you have to really believe, right?
Yeah, and of course yes, right. It's kind of happening anyhow, and of course that is the substance of a whole line of spiritual instruction. The view that we have nothing to say about anything that happens to us, that it's all predetermined or the result of karmic consequence or, whatever.
That you're not the doer.
Right, that's a whole line of spiritual instruction. But to me, even that's beside the point. Because to me, it is evident that even the effort to try to believe that is just a waste of time, because in the end, we still end up bereft, feeling that something's missing, something's wrong, something's out of kilter. Haven't quite got it yet. Even if I persuade myself that there's nothing I can do about anything, still I have the sense that there's something I haven't quite seen yet, or I haven't quite gotten yet. So my view of it is that the whole show is beside the point. I mean, go ahead, try to change things. Go ahead, try to become a better person, or try to become enlightened, or try to become soft and clear and compassionate and loving, or try to become rich, or try to become famous, or try to become anything you want. In the midst of all that, it is absolutely possible to turn your attention to reality. And in turning your attention to reality, the idea is not to change the life or to destroy the mind or to destroy ego even. The idea is to find out what's true, what's real, not to deal with what's false. And when what's real is seen clearly, the idea that I am all of this other stuff just vanishes. And along with it, the idea that I am at stake in it and that I have to really pay attention to what's happening. And life reveals itself to be sweet, smooth, soft and easy, just as it is.
So many people maybe believe that there's nothing more than what what my senses bring into me. And your testimony is that there is another perception that you can have a direct and unmitigated experience of what you are.
Well, what I suggest is that you already do. People believe all kinds of things. I mean, really, they believe all kinds of stuff. I'm a great believer myself in all kinds of nonsense. But already, even in the midst of all this believing and not believing, even in the midst of all of this involvement and entanglement into the ways that this life unfolds, even in the midst of all of that, I am always aware of this background of reality, this background of unchanging certainty. Always I am aware of that. I seldom attend to it in ordinary life.
Maybe you don't just call it that, or maybe the general public or me,
right.
I don't say that this is my basic nature, but it's
that's
there.
right,
and it's on the screen behind what everything else that I'm doing. That's projected on that screen. This bigger nature is on that screen.
But you still know it because the background of it all is you. That's why.
Right. If I wasn't here, nothing would be happening.
That's right.
I mean, it
that's
would
right.
be
and
no
the
questions
background
about
of it all is you, and you're never missing. So it's not like you know something separate from you, or higher than you, or deeper than you, or more whatever than you. You know you. You're always aware of yourself. Always. Most of our lives, however, well, all of our lives, as long as we are human, we see things through a false belief. The lens that we peer through in looking at our lives and acting on our lives and looking at the world and looking at you as someone separate from me, is the lens itself is the false belief that I am this life. The lens itself. It can't be seen.
That's like the basic lens. Because,
yes,
I'm sure there's all kinds of false beliefs.
Yes, but I'm speaking of
like the fundamental foundation of false belief.
The fundamental consciousness that makes up the whole show of your life. Itself is a lens. That itself is a false idea, a false proposition.
Distorts reality. This
right,
lens.
that you are this life. And so long as you believe that the story, the viewpoint, the what appears, so long as you believe that it is as it appears through that lens, which is that you are your life, that you are at stake in this life, that what happens in this life hurts you or harms you. So long as you believe that to be the case, you suffer. So long as you believe that to be the case, you have the conviction that something is still missing.
So this believing is actually not active. It's like passive.
It's not active, right?
It's passive.
It's not at all
in other words, like a belief that's like, I think that's the way it is, you
Right.
know? I mean,
That's
I
right.
never thought of anything else. I never
thought of anything else.
thought it could be
Never
any other
saw
way,
it
you know?
any
I'm
other way, right.
dead certain it's that way.
That's
and
right.
it's not like I
That's right.
joined the church and said, okay, I believe
That's right.
in this doctrine, or
That's right. It's like, when we see with vision, with our eyes, and we visually see gross objects like the floor and the couch and the body over there and so forth. Unless we are educated to consider things differently, we believe that this body is solid, that it's made up of solid stuff.
Yeah, it feels.
Right? This is
It's
all
got a
solid.
substance, and we do too.
But the modern physics has shown us that that's not the case. So that the belief that this stuff is solid is a false belief. But it's not a belief we're aware of. It's just, that's the way it is. This couch is solid. I can't put my hand through it. And unless we are educated to the point where we know that modern physics has demonstrated that that's not the case. It's an appearance. The whole feeling of it, the whole solidness of it, impenetrability of it is an appearance.
So in other words, our equipment is, our mind-body mechanism has certain equipment, and equipment has got a sense of touch, and a touch says what's soft and what's airy or watery, and what seems to be solid, and that must be good to survive with.
That's right. And the whole mind-body mechanism, the whole consciousness of this sense of individual consciousness, that too is a mechanism. It is a point of view. The whole seeming existence of me as John Sherman, as a separate being sitting here with you, as a separate mind with its own intentions and thoughts and desires and history and a right view of the world rather than a wrong view of the world, or a wrong view of the world rather than a right view of the world.
Or an improving view of the world, or
right,
something, I'm working on it.
That whole apparatus is the lens that we live our lives through, and through which we come to the obvious. It seems perfectly obvious and justifiable that I am this life. What else could I be?
It's it seems to me like the mechanism is a tool that we are blessed with, having this tool, but it is a point of view machine. It's a machine that's designed to have a point of view and a relativity, because all its sensors are relative sensors.
That's right.
They're not absolute sensors.
That's right.
Like, I can't tell you absolutely what temperature this is. All I can tell you is it's warmer than my hand or it's cooler than my hand. And same with brightness or darkness and lightness.
And as you point out, this apparatus is a magnificent tool. It's a tool whereby I can see, feel, touch, taste, comprehend. It's a magnificent tool. It's evolved. It has evolved in a Darwinian sense, and what's come as the product that is me is this apparatus, through which I look, and through which I come to believe that this is me. Not a tool, but me. The actuality of me. And that anything that happens to this apparatus happens to me. And that anything good that happens enhances me. And anything bad that happens harms me. And I develop an enormous capacity for making judgments about what's good and what's bad, based on experience and education and cultural pressure and so forth. But all of it's predicated on the basis that this is me. That's why I work so hard to figure out what I should be and shouldn't be, what I should do and shouldn't do, because I'm at stake here. What happens hurts me or helps me.
Yeah,
so I better choose right.
Does it help the body, or we don't even know, whether it helps the body persist? Some things would, some things would.
Yeah,
but you're saying
that
that's the me that I'm identified with, but there's a me that's more basic and more inclusive and more...
I'm saying that what I am...
And you can touch it. You can't say much about it, but you can...
Can't say anything about it. It's too simple.
You can't touch it or have the direct, unmitigated experience of it.
But consider, really, as we sit here, the one certainty, the only thing that you can absolutely be certain of is that you are. At best, we can say that some stimulus to the mind-body organism creates this pulsation and radiance within this piece of meat up here that is the flashing on and off of electrochemical impulses and the change in valence and the change in pH levels, and that this whole billions of cells up here are always a part of. And what makes of that this picture of you sitting here in front of me? Where does that come from?
Isn't that a mystery?
Right. And of course, philosophically, this is the perennial mystery. This whole mind-body question is the perennial mystery. No one can make sense of it. But the only reason even for thinking about such rarefied matters is to demonstrate the fact that you have no basis for being certain that any of this is as it appears. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason for even discussing the unreliability of sensory stuff that creates images in the consciousness and so forth is to demonstrate the fact that you have no basis for any certainty about the appearance of anything. You don't know that you're here in this room. You don't know that there's actually a person sitting here or cameras that are recording our discussion. You know that, you can operate as if that were the case, but on a fundamental level, if you really examine it, you'll see that there really is no basis for that certainty other than your memory of things and how things have always been.
So I compare it to another time when things seemed to be this way, and
right.
I had come to the conclusion that this
you
was a
see
gentleman in front of me, and that this was a discussion, and this was the English language,
and so forth.
And,
but all of that could be made up.
Right.
Could be.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that it is, because that's beside the point, whether it's made up or not. The only thing you know for certain is that you are. And that you know with such certainty that no philosophy, no convoluted craziness could ever dissuade you of. You know that you are.
Right. Well, we could, expand that a little bit to where we were going before, that you're not certain that you're actually the doer, because we were talking about...
Yeah, but that's another...
Yeah, but it also
realm.
is about the realm of uncertainty, because things might just be happening.
That's right.
Because as long as we're talking about this uncertainty, the basic uncertainty,
you might be the doer.
We should kind of try to clear up what we said before, because we just said, well, you're not the doer, and we didn't say it in those words, right?
And we should go back and clear that up by saying that so far as you know, you might be the doer.
Might be the doer.
You might not be the doer.
Right.
I'm
not certain of
that. You can choose like one of those propositions, the one that feels most right to you, and go with it. But you'll never know for sure.
Right.
Whether you're the doer or not the doer.
I remember listening to one of the teachings about non-doership, and that the cosmos is unfolding, and that your activities actually are happening as you're claiming that I'm doing this. And basically, he said some wonderful things. He just said, act like you're the doer.
Yes, that's right. Why
just
not?
Do it. Make your plans, do everything you do normally, and just know that the source is the doer, and which means I don't have to worry about it. Which is kind of like what you're saying is that that your life, whether it goes this way or that way, can't hurt you.
Yeah, except I'm saying much less than that.
Yeah.
All right? I'm not suggesting that there is a right way to live your life,
Yeah.
and a wrong way to live your life, right? Like, for example, the right way to live your life is to assume that you are the doer and act as if you are, knowing that you are not. Or the right way to live your life is to believe that you are the doer and take responsibility for everything that's done. Or the right way to live your life is anything else. I don't have any interest in telling you how to live your life. I don't have any interest in telling you what assumptions you should act on, that will make you satisfied with what you do. I don't have any interest in that. My interest is in bringing you to the realization that you don't know any of that. And that even though you don't know any of that, everything keeps going on anyway. But first of all, that you don't know any of that. You don't know whether you're the doer or not the doer. You don't even know whether you're in this form. All you know for certain is that you are. What you are is another whole story. Why you are, another whole story. All you know is that you are. That really is, and really you don't even have to know that to find happiness. But it helps.
So far what you said is such a huge freedom, because you're not, you're even refusing to give any kind of a doctrine whatsoever. So
That's right.
No matter what kind of a doctrine there is and how simple it is, whether it's doership or the source or blah, blah, blah. Right. And what's coming up for me is this, and it might not be exactly what that doctrine was. And so now I've got a separation, because there's this, what seems to be coming up, and then this doctrine, which non-doership or whatever it could be, which says, well, maybe I should try to not be the doer here or something like that. I mean, it already separates me from my life.
Good luck with that.
But you've just told us, I'm not going to tell you anything. Whatever comes up is coming up. So that gives us the privilege of just being totally with whatever is coming up in our life.
That's right. And the only point that I have in even addressing these matters, again, let me make this really plain. The only thing that I care about in regard to your relationship to your life is that you see that this is not an opinion or a doctrine, but this is the actual fact of the matter, that you cannot be certain about any of it in the same level of certainty that you have that you are.
So that is one thing that is
that's
certain.
That's the benchmark of certainty.
Everything else is like evolved out of that,
That's
and
right.
it's just like an assumption based on a previous occurrence,
that's right.
Probably.
Exactly. So that's the point of all this, is to get you to see that the benchmark of certainty is the certainty that you are. And the only reason for even bringing you to this is to show you where I would like you to look to discover the reality of what you are, which is precisely this certainty, this absolute certainty of your existence. That is what you are.
So you are going to build us a foundation that's absolute, and for all these years we've been
actually I'm not going to build
sands.
anything.
It's just going to happen by going to the one thing.
That's right.
That
You're
is
here.
absolute.
That's right.
I am.
So to go back again to the beginning, right? What I wish to suggest to you and to all of your viewers, what I wish to suggest to you is that there is a false belief in operation about your nature, and that this false belief is of a character that makes your life unsatisfactory because you are not stable, because you're not what you want to be, because always there are things within the scope of this life coming and going that are unacceptable. And there are coming that are unacceptable and going that are unacceptable for them to be going.
Too, because I don't want them to go.
Staying, right. So that, and what I want to suggest to you, and what I want you to consider, along with everybody else, is that false belief is at the heart of the only problem there is in all of human existence. That false belief is what gives rise to all of the warfare which begins in the internal warfare of me against me, of my good thoughts against my bad thoughts, of my good desires against my bad desires, and so forth. And
that's radical right there.
That's right.
Just to say that the warfare begins in here, because I'm doing it all the time. So why shouldn't people be doing it? I mean, even me doing it outside. I'm against the politician that voted against my curb and gutter or something like that.
Right, you got to kill him or
yeah,
vote him out of office.
Yeah, get him out. I mean, we've had water in our basement for all these years. We don't have a basement, but anyhow, for instance.
And it's obvious once you consider it that this is where the war begins. And this determination to kill off those aspects of me that I don't like and to enhance and hold on to, grasp these aspects of me that I do like. That's where it all begins.
But anytime we have ideals, that's a mechanism that's happening. Yeah. So everybody that's teaching ideals, there's an ideal and morals.
You should be
anything.
This and not this.
Yeah. Right away, that sets up a warfare.
That's right. So if it's true, my suggestion is that the whole problem is to be found in this belief that you are your life, and that this belief is false, is a lie. It's understandable how it would come to be, because this is what it looks like, right? Just like this looks solid.
Right.
If that's true, then certainly the only possible way to solve that problem is the truth. There is nothing whatsoever that can be done about the way your life's unfolding or the way you think about things or the things that you believe or disbelieve. You can try real hard, but it's not going to change the fundamental issue, which is that I believe that I am at stake in this life. I believe that I am to be hurt or to be helped by what happens in this life. The only thing that will settle that is the truth of what you are. And the truth of what you are is the certainty that you are. Now, my experience, my own personal experience, and the experience of many of the people who have been meeting with me over the years, is that as you look at that certainty, and you will be unable to say anything about it, even calling it certainty is way more complicated than it is. As you look at this permanent, underlying, unchanging reality, just looking at it, like if you could look at this couch and see the madness of
the dance in there,
quantum
the vibrational dance,
events and so forth going on, you would lose the belief that this couch was solid, even though nothing I could tell you could persuade you against it. In the same way, if you look at the reality of what you are, which is this underlying permanent certainty, if you look at it, gradually this false belief that you are something other than that vanishes. The artifact that you believe yourself to be doesn't vanish. Why would it? It is the tool through which you see yourself and all else. But the belief that it's you vanishes. You don't believe that you are those eyeglasses.
Right, even though I see through them.
But you see through them.
Right, they're another kind of a tool.
Right.
Now, we kind of made a jump just back about a couple of minutes.
We did.
Where we said, if it's true that this belief that you are your life is a false belief. Now, I just wanted to ask you now, where do we get the idea to go to that? Isn't that the testimony of people that have been there? In other words, what we might call great beings, and we might even say you yourself, because you've had these experiences. You're bringing us a testimony that that you have found out that the belief that your life was you was false.
All of there have been, there came a time about 3,000 years ago when we abandoned the idea of animism, of God's spirits and things and the sky and all of that. Right? And we basically, as humanity, as a human species, we turned away from that idea, those simplistic, sacrificial ideas about what was true and what was real and so forth, and turned inward. And we did that under the guidance of a number of great beings that have walked the earth over time. Great beings meaning those who have seen what's real. Not that they are different than you or I, but they've just seen what's real.
Somehow they saw this reality.
And came to us and said, look, this is not the way it is. This is not it. You are not what you think you are. And we said, yeah, I get it. Please, give me a boon. Make me feel better. Give me an experience. Give me samadhi. Give me something, for God's sake. So yeah, they all said it. All of them.
So this is where the idea comes from, right?
For me, the idea comes from, yes, this is where the idea comes from.
For you, this is the idea where the idea came from. Now, the idea comes from your own direct experience. That's what I'm driving at.
That's right.
And so then you're sharing that with us and saying, hey, you don't have to believe that
anymore. And here's
the
thing, right? You don't have to believe anything, right? The reason I say, if this is true, like we really don't have to refer to the rest of the history of traditional spiritual utterance. We really don't have to refer to that in order to see what's real. That's all beautiful and useful. And
it maybe just gives us the idea to break our boundaries.
But here's the idea here,
Yeah.
Right? And the reason that I say, if this is true, is because I really don't want you to believe that it's true. I want you to find out. You see, I don't see any point whatsoever in persuading people to believe that all is one, or that I am infinite consciousness, or any of that. I don't want you to believe anything. I want you to find out for yourself, directly, in this moment, what's true, what's real.
In a way, we have to hold it that, there is something there to go toward. Of course, you're saying, well, it doesn't cost you anything to try it, so just try it.
That's right. You don't have to believe anything.
As a seeker, I would say this, like, for a long time, I believed that I could never do it, because it was too arduous. And then there was a time I can remember where I started to believe, hey, I'm in on this, I can do it. And it was a huge breakthrough that, opened my willingness to let it happen. And so, in a way, we have to, I don't know if you'd call it a belief, but we have to understand that someone gives a testimony that there is something more than just believing that I am my life.
Yeah. But that's happening right here and now.
Yeah, right here and now.
And really, I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is that if you will look, looking for what's permanent, what's real, what makes me certain that I exist, if you will look at that, it really doesn't matter if you even know what you're doing. You don't even have to expect the outcome. If you will look at that as often as you can, and everybody knows it, I mean, you're here, right? Can't deny it, you're here. If you'll look at that as often as you can, everything else will be taken care of. And the truth of the matter is that it is even more simple than the idea, well, I used to think that I couldn't do it for myself, and now I think I can do it for myself. The fact is, you're the only one that can do it. Nobody can do this for you. And it's easy. You're here. What could be easier? It is to direct your attention at the most fundamental thing that you already know. Just that. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to tell stories about it. You don't have to not tell stories about it. All you have to do is look at it. Often.
So it's just a kind of a seed, or a kind of...
Yes, that's right.
And it doesn't look like anything. It looks like how it looks when you get there.
Looks like you.
Yeah. That's it. There's nothing put on it. No qualities or no... which is just totally open.
Just you.
So however I'm seeing it, that's it.
That's it.
This moment.
And it will wash away the lie that you are this life. And when that lie is gone, life is revealed to be sweet. Not changed, transcended, transformed, turned into a saint or anything else, just as it is. You know, also all these people who have brought us this possibility over the past have all told us that too. They've always told us nothing changes. You're really confused when you're looking for something to change. Nothing changes. Already you are exactly as you are. Already.
So you mean nothing changes about the truth, or nothing changes about who you are?
Nothing has ever changed about that.
Yeah.
But the life continues just as it is. I mean, by just as it is, I mean with its endlessly fickle changing and shifting.
Yeah, because we always say everything changes, and now we're saying nothing changes. I just want to be real clear to our viewers what the distinction is.
Yes, that's it. All that changes is that this belief, and what's a belief? I mean, can you hold a belief? Does it look like something? Does it taste like something? This belief vanishes. That's all that happens.
Strange, because we don't even know we have it now. It's invisible before and it's invisible after, right?
That's right. That's right.
Because, I mean, I think of other beliefs, like if you join a church or something and sign the declaration that I believe in this and that and the other, and those are more like formal declarations of things you know you believe, you know.
Those are a different order of
people
believing.
have probably told you that you believe that, and finally when you have accepted it, then you can articulate it. But then these more important beliefs, and they're more important because they're working all the time, and we're just walking on them as if they were solid ground.
Right, exactly,
and then,
as if they were solid cows.
Really, they're just made out of a house of cards, you know. and any time we could just pull one out and whoosh.
That's right, and since it never had any effect on anything apart from this internal psychological sense of wrongness, of off-kilter, of not life, like there's always something more, you know, or there's always something I want to get rid of. And the sense that I am at stake in that is what vanishes with the belief. Not necessarily there's always something more or there's always something to get rid of. Because really, how does that hurt anybody? You've never been harmed, have you?
Well, what would I do without things to get more and get rid of? I mean, that's my daily employment of doing these things. I mean, the belief is kind of like a floor that I'm standing on and walls that I'm boxed in with. And I mean, you know, it means that I'm trying to bring things into my little room and shoot them out of the little room. But I mean, if I didn't have a room, things would just be moving around, and I wouldn't care really, because
if you go to the movies, right? If you go to the movies, and if you see a really good movie that is, you know, one of the great movies, like, I don't know, think of what you think of as a great movie that captures you and pulls you into the movie and brings you into the life of the character and brings you into being energetically involved in the fate of the character and the fate of the character's desires and efforts and so forth. Imagine a movie like that. Now, you can sit in a movie theater and be completely captured by such a movie where you don't entertain any thoughts whatsoever that, oh, this is just a movie. But even that, there is not the slightest idea really within you that you are at stake in the outcome of that character, that something's going to happen to you because this character, something happens to this character. You follow me? And that's the reality of it. You know, you rest, you lay back and relax and fall back into your life with no separation, not needing to hold it at arm's length, but that whole sense that, oh my God, I got to do this right. I got to get this right. I got to believe the right thing. I got to think the right thing. That's all gone. It's just an adventure, a drama, a movie.
Sometimes movies can capture you, though, because, you know, the actual fate of the character is not going to kill you. But then they put the character in such a believable circumstances, and you might say, "Oh my gosh, there really are piranhas in the river," Or maybe there's piranhas in our river.
Yes,
or,
and you will get the thrill.
Or there's diseases or something like
right,
that.
and
Or
you will
there's,
get
there's global pollution or something like that. Or they might say, oh, the government is doing this to us. He showed like how the government is doing something, and then they're probably doing it to us too.
And you get the thrill, right? The frisson, is that the word? The thrill of the fear and the terror and the concern and all of that. But you know that there's what's the word I'm looking for? A fundamental, primal difference between the fear and the terror and the concern and the sadness and the sorrow and the grieving and the bereftness that arises within you as a result of what happens to the character, and the fear and the terror and the disgust and the disappointment and the sadness and grief that arises within you when it's happening to you, what you believe to be you. I guarantee you that if this body is in the Amazon surrounded by piranhas, your experience will be much different than identifying with the character on the movie screen whose body is in the river with the piranhas. I promise you that. You can see that it's true. But that's all beside the point. You see. Really, it's all beside the point. The point is that I say your belief that you are your life is a lie, and that if you will rid yourself of that belief, you will be happy to see it gone, and that it's easy to rid yourself of that belief. You do that, then you tell me what life is like. I'm telling you what my life is like. You tell me what life is like. Tell me if you're at stake here. Really. What I want to happen is for you to do the work, for you to do the looking, for you to do the eradication of the false belief, and then do whatever you want. Really, do whatever you want. Enjoy yourself.
I just have the feeling this is just a beautiful and valuable gift, because so many other people might be giving gifts, but there's what they found maybe was just by happenstance, and it just was a happening that happened to them. And how can you teach a happening?
That's right.
I mean, you can't really teach it. You could just say it, and after it happened, you can have certain insights and try to share those insights. But it sounds to me that you actually set out to do this in what you could call a step-by-step way, just by following a simple instruction, and it worked. And so then, if you could do it, then we
I didn't
could do
it
it
real
too.
well. I really didn't. I did it very poorly, very clumsily, very awkwardly, steeped in great ignorance as to what I was doing. But I was so desperate, I was so miserable, I was so tired of being desperate and miserable, that I happened upon this offer, this teaching, and I said, I'm going to do this. So I undertook it and did very poorly at it, and fought and struggled and did all the unspiritual things that are not recommended. Tried with all my heart, thought about it, obsessed about it. And time came when it dawned on me that, well, life is sweet.
That's another great gift, because you said just the time came when it dawned on me. So then, just is like it's a reasoning, or it's a momentum to just keep going with it.
That's right.
Because it's not like we can be disappointed.
That's right.
There's no disappointment because the Big Bang is not coming.
That's right. And I promise you something, and that is that once you start, it takes care of itself. Once you start, it progresses on its own. It has nothing to use except your abilities and your understandings and so forth, but it drags your abilities and understandings back to the source. Once you start, you've discovered what you've always wanted to be doing. And the truth of the matter is that in the midst of the inquiry, and as I said, I took longer than it should take anybody. But in the midst of the inquiry, I realized that this looking at reality itself was the most satisfying, thirst-quenching thing I had ever done. I might only be able to
even you learned to love it.
Yes, that's right. I learned to love it. The inquiry itself. That there was nothing. Everything else, all the other adventures and puzzles and problems and so forth that we enjoy engaging with are mere shadows of this adventure, this investigation. And it is...
So you must be saying that because there's really satisfying feedback that comes out of it, or
yes,
really
that's right.
feeling there's a light or there's clearness.
That's
or
right.
Something.
And in the end, and what I said was it dawned on me, because the truth is that this belief is gone before you even notice it's gone. What you notice is that life is getting lighter. I mean, it's not that the problems are changing and all the problems are being solved, but the whole thing is getting lighter.
Yeah, I've been noticing that about my life.
Yeah, that's right. That's
really getting lighter.
That's an outcome of the inquiry. It's an outcome of the gradual eradication of the false belief that you are at stake in this life. And everyone I know who I speak with, who has carried this inquiry forward, has the same report. And that most of them are really surprised because everybody thinks, well, gosh, you got to have this big thing happen and everything be transformed and transcended. And
right. Bigness, Let me share this because I think we have time enough to get into one little other subject, Because during the weekend you were talking about your intention is very important, intention. And other times I've heard people say intent and intention and vision, and I don't know if they're the same, but, And sometimes you feel like you're so stuck, or, maybe I guess I get fed up that things are going around and around, and it seems like I can't shake what I want to shake, and this is a problem we talked about earlier. And so then I came to think that, well, this intention must have to be, because you stressed it too, this intention must have to be really like an arrow or piercing or tightly focused or powerful or really an intention to I know it's the same old thing that you're always saying doesn't exist. That this intention has to be strong enough to pierce through this fog,
but you
or
see,
something.
it's more than that, right? Or it's less than that.
Yeah,
the intention's already here.
Right.
It's already here, and the intention is precisely the drive of the life force to try to become something, to try to decide what's good and bad, to try to decide what I need, what I want, what I don't need, what I don't want. That all of that activity that has the intention is the energy that makes you want something to stop that won't stop. That's the intention. That's the energy that's harnessed in the inquiry. Because the truth of the matter is, and it's so clear, the truth of the matter is that all my life I have been trying to find out what I am. And I've just been doing it even worse than I finally did it.
In so many different ways.
Found
right?
out where to
so
look.
Many different ways.
Yeah.
So anyhow, what happened, I was kind of doing this Kriya this morning, which is some kind of a spiritual practice, because I just thought, well, I'll just have some good breaths and just kind of, feel good, And so then I could think of all the times that I ever did any other kind of a practice, and from the practice maybe I had a changed my state, let's say, that I was more peaceful or meditative or this or that. And still, it seems like I always had the connection that I am still.
Yes, that's right.
I'm
benefiting from this.
I'm benefiting from this. I'm learning how to
better
do it.
off
Finally,
because of the
I
stillness,
am
right.
doing. Not that I was puffing up my chest and saying I real loud, but it was just an underlying like assumption that this is I that's getting better at doing this practice or this and that. And this morning I just realized that you could go on for decades and just be the greatest meditator, and you'd be so identified with I, who is the greatest meditator, and it just doesn't really, it's not inquiry. And so then I have this very soft intention come up. It was just the softest, smallest, tiniest little intention to just say, well, John says I could just say, well, who is this, or Ramana or John says, well, who is this great meditator? Who is it that's saying that I'm finally learning this? And I could see I could go one step farther and just look. And then the whole thing made sense because it was kind of like undermining this belief. And I was just saying, okay.
Yes, that's right. Of course it does.
I don't need to stop here and just say, hey, I'm a great meditator, or I'm a great
you see, in all things
breather.
Whatsoever, right? And intention is can be soft or strong or sharp or sour, but in all things whatsoever, when you are being a really good meditator and you're peaceful and calm and mindful and so forth, when you're trying to get rid of some trip that's going on because you're tired of it and keeping you awake at night, no matter what's going on, what's common to all of it is you. That's the I that you speak of. The common denominator of all of it is you. So the question is, why not start there? And first know what you are before concerning yourself with what you need to do in the life.
That's so important. We're really coming rapidly to a close. I think we really talked about some really fine details.
I'm happy with this.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we really covered some good ground and made some really clear statements and brought this simple teaching into the simple language that it deserves.
I've never said it as well as it deserves.
Okay, well, we can always try again.
Yes.
So, I really enjoyed this weekend. I wanted to, we talked about trying to have a show that would air before one of your weekends, but now this show and this series of shows could be aired the next time. So you have to come to Chicago again because we've got all the shows to tell everybody what it's all about.
Of course, I'm also hoping that these shows get to be aired elsewhere, too.
Yeah, why not? Of course, we'll prepare them for
I just want to tell everybody.
Right.
And by whatever means I can, to tell everybody, just look and see what you are. Just that. Don't worry about it. Just look and see what you are. You can figure it out. You really can. Once you hear that there's possible to just look and see the reality of your nature, you can figure out how to do it.
That's fantastic.
Okay?
So, Mr. John Sherman, I guess we flashed up your website, which is riverganga.org, and that's you can see how to spell it on the screen. And you've got a blog at johnsherman.org, so then that's one that's easier to remember, maybe.
Yes.
And look up John and see what he's all about, and
somehow it's also come to pass that if you Google John Sherman, I'm first.
Google? Oh, boy, you're the first John
but...
Sherman. Okay, well, I'm Richard Miller. This is Never Not Here, and we're going to have a lot of interesting shows in the coming weeks. So come around and see us, and thanks so much for coming and joining us.
Beloved calls you here today to ask you for this dance. What will you say?